to the Trinity Force Podcast. Yo, it's that Triforce cast beaming straight to your home. Grab a beer so we know Pone ain't drinking alone. Send an email, a quick tweet, just pick up the phone. Leave a message at the beep if you're a creep, watch your tone. Discuss the meta game, patch notes, whatever helps your stats most. Obi-Pone Kenobi is your last hope to snatch gold. So grab your headphones and join in the fun. We'll try enforcing some jokes and some cringeworthy puns. Yo, we can make it together, people. Trinity Force Podcast. These boys are second to none. Now that's the end of the intro. It's time we begun.
Hey guys, welcome to Trinity Force Podcast. My name is Adam Ponophobia Cogswell. You're listening to episode number 398. As we move into the preseason, I got three people with me. Dom, Chira, and Punch are all here. Hello, guys.
It's the most wonderful time of the year. The preseason. It's finally here, guys.
I'm not impressed by it so far.
Get out of here. Get off this podcast.
I got to play Talon. He's fun. It's actually not that different.
No, he's worse. This is what it is. He's a lot
How is that
worse.
possible?
Well, because Talon already had a really shitty laning phase before, and now he's got an even worse one because he has one less ability that does anything in laning phase.
He can parkour over towers.
He can,
Over
and that's really
towers.
fun to do. And people are never looking for it, so like it's. I don't know. It gives him some fun maneuverability. I'm not gonna call it good, but it's fun.
So Jungle Talon is
Obviously,
No, even worse than it was
now.
previously. Everything that I've seen so far, there's only one assassin out of this entire rework that is like glaringly got better, right? Like
And which one is
is
that for you,
purple?
Adam?
That's Kha'Zix.
Okay, of course it was, because
Didn't
you've
let me
been doing
guess.
nothing but riding his dick all day.
I've been watching a lot of streams all day.
I bet you have.
And Zed hasn't impressed me at all. LeBlanc, I think, will maybe eventually impress me, but she's going to need a lot of work in her to get to the point. Talon doesn't impress me. Rengar doesn't impress me. And
work as in
I've
they need to
heard-
add more back to LeBlanc, or people need to put in more work to play her.
likely need to put in more work to play her, but she's also less. So we're going to talk all about this, but like these are just, obviously my thoughts from watching streams and watch people play them. Is like LeBlanc is more of like an assassin mage. She's not like a straight assassin anymore, right? Like she's like this assassin mage, control mage combo that she's got going on. So she doesn't have near the burst that she previously had.
That sucks.
I think that's what they were going for, though.
Right.
So long as she can still be played or picked. I'm trying not to use the word viable here. Help
right?
me.
I mean, like they were making pretty clear across the board that they don't want any of the assassins to have the same type of burst that they used to have. So
Yeah, they seem to
if
tone that
you're-
down across the board.
if you're upset about that because you mained that champion, well, I get it, and that's disappointing, but you shouldn't be surprised by this. They were pretty upfront with that
I'm
as a
actually
goal.
surprised by it because you get used to playing a certain champion a certain way, and obviously that when they change champions that does a lot for it. Like Poppy's a big one, right? Like they completely changed her entire.
Right, but remember how long it
idea,
took
but-
people to adjust to Swain and Vlad?
Oh no, Swain was just people being dumb. That's not a very good one. 'Cause
No, it's the same. It's the same thing. Like it took people time to adjust.
I mean,
Yes, it was stupidity was the factor in this
And
instance,
that-
but it took
but
people time to adjust.
That same adjustment, like with characters that can 100 to 0 you, like it forces you to also position in ways to take into consideration that if you're out of position and somebody shows up that can 100 to 0 you, you're probably getting insta-gibbed. So,
Yeah, there's really
I don't
not
know,
any more instant gibbing with her either.
well, it doesn't seem like there's much insta-gibbing anywhere.
No,
which is kinda weird.
Kha'Zix's like more sustained damage now. But
Yeah.
the funny thing about Kha'Zix is he does insta-gib once he gets a couple items under him. He gets Thunderlords and a Duskblade, and he's insta-gibbing people. So,
I mean, is that the case for all of the assassins you've seen, or just Kha'Zix?
Just
Like in
Kha'Zix.
theory, that should be the case for
For all of them.
all
no,
of them.
Yeah, they should get to a
For
point
new
where they
Duskblade?
can do their job.
I don't know. When
Rengar
I was playing
just
Talon,
doesn't really do anything anymore. He's like he's lost his whole
good.
identity.
Fuck that guy. Fuck that champion. So good.
And Fizz, I've seen people complaining about Fizz. I haven't even seen him played yet. I don't
Fuck
know
that
if he's-
champion, too.
if
I've got
he's good or
some
bad.
ideas on Fizz. Like, I wonder if a Bruiser T-Force Fizz might be better.
See, that was about to bring up a Blizzard T-Force Katarina, because I guess that's the way people are trying to play her now, like a Triforce type of thing, because a lot of what I see is that you can't control where the Q lands. So if you're trying to harass with the Q, when you walk up to so when you throw a Q, it bounces and then it lands
in a random direction, yeah.
And then you have to walk up to it to get it to proc. Like her early laning phase just sucks ass because she has less ways to trade than she previously did.
I think the all around goal was for the assassins to be bad laners, and you get ahead by being places other than your lane. I'm not saying that is a good way for the game to be played, but I think that was Riot's intent with all the assassin reworks. Because if assassins can be safe laners, then that pretty much gives them free reign to become snowbally monsters every single game.
Unfortunately, if you give somebody a bad laning phase, they don't get the opportunity.
To get to that point, you're going to get shoved out by somebody like Ziggs who can just easy free farm the shit out of the wave and then still be like an AoE powerhouse later on in the game.
Let me put it to you this way. Like the way, like politics, right? Because obviously the election happened. Politics, everyone mind. I'm going to go.
Oh man, I hope this
Damn
really.
you for
we're not talking about the election,
great.
Nothing, but I'm just using politics for an example because a lot of the times things that look really good on paper and in theory don't work out the way that they're supposed to in real life. Kind of like raising the minimum wage for people looks really fucking good on paper, but then when it goes into practice, it probably isn't going to work out as well in real life as you think it might, right? It's the same thing with laners that have poor laning phases but can roam and get ahead. On paper, that sounds really cool, but if you can never lead your lane and you are always at the threat of losing your tower and opening the map up, like you can't go and roam, so you have to give them something in lane to be able to do that.
I'm
to
not.
Their goal, I should
You have
say.
to raise
I'm not
the
saying
assassin's
this was
minimum
the
wage.
Yeah.
I'm not saying this was the correct way for the assassins to be retuned or reworked, however you want to look at them. Everything I read and looked at suggested that was the goal. They're not supposed to be good laners.
Okay. So they didn't want it to be, hey, I'm Zed. I can wait till 6 before I just all in you, and I can safely farm if this is.
Well, and Zed was even good at harassing people out of lane anyway.
Right.
I mean, especially because people were so bad at buying a Seeker's Arm Guard first. Like Zed was winning most of his laning matchups just because people weren't paying attention to what they're doing.
And Zed's still
who they were fighting.
He hasn't really lost his identity in that. He hasn't lost anything really.
Then why are you not impressed with Zed?
I just haven't seen it. He's either been banned.
Well, he wasn't that
or
impressive
something
before the
like
preseason either.
Right. Zed hasn't.
Zed.
Nothing of Zed has really changed. I mean, Living Shadow got some nerfs. E got some nerfs, but other than that, nothing is. I mean, and obviously he's gaining attack damage off his death mark, but how much does that really help in the long run?
I mean, so a lot of our conversations were on the assumption that assassins were going to be really good after the rework. And I'm still of the mind that the jury is out on that, and we need more than, 7 hours or however long any of us has really had to even play. We need more time than that to actually figure it out. But let's just pretend for a minute that assassins are really bad. What is that doing to the meta all of a sudden?
Nothing. It does nothing.
I mean, so suddenly now it's all about
yes.
what the jungle changed to,
Which is
and the jungle almost
just
just reinforced it almost just reinforced what was already good.
So when I first came in here, you guys were like, preseason Punch was all like, oh, preseason's the most wonderful time. I've been everything that I've watched preseason. Granted, it's only been 7 hours or whatever it has been. Right? Sorry, my phone is going off.
You should be.
Granted, it's only been 7 hours, and people are still probably playing what they're comfortable with. Some people are getting in there and getting their hands dirty and playing the Kazakhs and the Kalis and whatnot. But it's just that you guys, like earlier in Slack today, you guys were making wild predictions. Some people were trying to make wild predictions of what's going to happen. And I mean, we made some wild predictions, assuming assassins are going to be good. But the tried and true is that the assassins aren't so good that they have to be played everywhere. The other champions that are being played, like the control mages and the top lane juggernauts, and the way bottom and the champions that are being played in the bottom lane are just actually so good that they're going to stay in those roles. Like Jhin didn't get any worse out of this patch. He's just as strong as he was previously. Alistar got better through that. So Alistar's still going to stay.
Oh yeah,
in the
I need to
bottom
play
lane.
him.
And I mean, Orianna and Ryze and Kennen. And
you don't
they're all
think
so good that the assassins can't do enough against them.
you don't think the itemization changes hurt Jin, given that his core build was Ghost Blade into Dusk Blade.
Well, that's the thing. That core build wasn't really his core build. That was the get more ahead build. Like, he is still, but he's better with the eye edge.
You're gonna tell me if I go to champion.gg
oh no,
and look him up,
everybody
those
is
aren't
playing.
going to be the.
But mathematically, he's better with those other items. It's just
Sure,
that,
but
It's
that
kind of
doesn't
like an
his
indirect
core,
buff for him.
That's fine if there were better items that were ultimately more efficient, but his core build for the last 4 months, 6 months, however long, has been those armor penetration items, and they got changed.
Yes, they have. However, if you listen to a lot of people talk about Jin and the way that they play him, a lot of people build Jin on a game-by-game basis based on what they want to do. Like, you'll see a lot of Essence Reaver Jins now. You'll see more Spellcasty Jin, likely, rather than that Ghostblade Jin. You'll see people, if they're ahead, rushing into that BF Sword and going into Eye Edge if they're getting really fed. Like, Jin is still really good because of all those items and the way they, synergize with his kit. Because he's a Spellcasty. He's more of a Spellcaster AD carry.
And that's fine. I'm not saying those items are bad or anything, but, like, his core items right now, as the majority of people have been building him, were those armor pen items, and he definitely changes it. Frankly, he's probably going to lose for a while just by virtue of people not paying attention. You said yourself that a bunch of pro streamers didn't even know the patch had a bunch of changes with it. They were just doing stuff and didn't know. I mean, I think.
Well, they knew. They just didn't know. They didn't read it. They didn't take time. They patched it, went in, and were like, okay, this has changed, and this has changed, right?
Yeah. I mean, I think
They're learning on the fly.
Right. But I think all those AD carries are still too good, regardless of what is happening. Besides, I know we talked about mobile AD carries like Ezreal's and.
I mean, that was working on the
Tristanas
assumption
and stuff.
assassins were good, and I think that still applies if the assassins suddenly really start shaping up. Which, frankly, Riot will buff them if they're really not that good.
Sure, and they will, but you don't start playing AD carries based on the assassins either. You play AD carries based on how good they are and what the objective of the game is. Like Tristana, any of those mobile AD carries have really long lag times, so you have to have your team that can prop you up. And if you're playing Jaces and Rengars and stuff on the top lane, you can't have that lag time.
I'm not sure what you mean by lag time.
Like, it takes a while. Like, a Tristana isn't good until probably, 15, 20 minutes into the game. Like, she doesn't start.
Okay, that's what
on.
you mean. I didn't know if you were talking.
Unlike
in
Caitlyn.
fights, they have a certain amount of time before they're suddenly really really big contributors, or what you were getting at.
No, they all have to farm up to get to a point where they become unstoppable because they have some items and some extra range and whatnot. Unlike the Jhin, Caitlyn, etc. of bottom lane that are good throughout the majority of the game.
Caitlyn, I think, is still really good even in the mobile AD carry meta.
Yeah, she's really.
She's got a little bit of mobility there going for her, and traps.
The range always helps too.
Yeah.
I saw Punch making a face. I mentioned Caitlyn, he starts making a face.
Why? You love that.
Yeah, why are you so upset about
I
Caitlyn?
want to say things, but they're probably all outdated, so I haven't played bot lane so long. But just hearing that Caitlyn is good throughout the entirety of the game, and I can't argue that considering Worlds just happened, and the few bot lane games I have played have been on Caitlyn. But that's just not traditionally that champion. That champion is usually a early and late game champion. So it's just weird to hear that. Hear her being talked about like that, but I can't argue.
Games got shorter,
Yeah, we're average time of a game is like 33 minutes right now.
Yeah, and if average game time is 33 minutes, that's exactly when you want to be ending games with Caitlyn.
Which again was not always the case with her. She can spike at an earlier with less items now.
Holy shit, her win rate by game length, like the longer it goes, the better she is.
Yes.
The dip is
Do you
25 to 30 minutes.
Remember how hard headshot will hit with a full build person?
No, I
away?
know, and I've seen it and played it and run into it a bunch of times. But just looking at the actual numbers for it, it kind of seeing just how drastic the spike ends up being is.
The reason why she's so good is because she can hold her own up until that late game in which she becomes unstoppable.
Right. The trap.
So it's not like you're gonna have an easy time in the early game. You're not.
I really hate that change to her trap. Like, it's good. It makes her really good and everything, but that she can suddenly just throw down 6 traps because she hasn't thrown down traps in a really long time. Because a fight happened and everyone died or something.
Well, you
like
max that ability first now on her. You're maxing W.
Yeah, I
because you
know.
want
No,
the
I
traps
know.
all the time.
And the number of 80 carries
And that makes
that
Punch go,
I've
"What?"
number
This
that
makes
I've
no
laned with.
sense.
The number that I've laned with who don't understand that. Oh, you max that first, and then you just trap them under their own damn tower, and then you get really good at ducking in and out of tower aggro range, like Adam that day.
That's what I've been practicing is ducking in and out of turret range to auto.
Like it's outright oppressive.
Right. But I know we jumped right into assassins and stuff, but I do kind of want to talk about the jungle because I feel like the jungle is going to have the biggest influence in how this game is going to be played out from here going forward, rather than the assassins until some of the assassins get some changes, because the jungle has had that large change. And the number one thing to know about the jungle is I think counter jungling is going to quickly become very prevalent after people understand how to play in the jungle, because the spawn retimes are actually longer. You can go through your entire clear, and by the time you make it back, after you've done an entire clear, except for maybe Krugs, because Krugs are a cock block.
Even if you've done Krugs, though.
For Krugs.
Right. By the time you've done your entire clear, you'll be walking back, and Gromp might just be spawning at that time, right? So we know that the respawn times are long enough where if you do a clear and you're healthy, you can go out and start ganking and still be either a level up or a level right on par with the laners as you walk into them.
Yeah, that was one thing I noticed is just screwing around in a bot game, going ahead. Like I finished the clear and I was up a level on laners, and I'm like not efficient at that route or that pathing or anything yet.
Right. Right now it seems like a lot of people they're starting a buff, whatever buff the best fits their champion, and then they're moving into one of the smaller camps and eventually they're going for Gromp or Krugs. But Krugs are, I mean, even Gromp isn't that hard to take at level 2 if you have a buff. So
No.
he doesn't really.
You're
do
healthy.
a ton of
I mean,
damage.
The status quo junglers, they're really healthy now while they're in there. I mean, it's just I mean, the smite reward, I guess, is what it really comes down to. Like you're pretty healthy. You shouldn't ever walk in a. I don't know if right now I would be walking into the enemy jungle hoping to catch somebody at low health or something, unless that enemy is Ivern, because
It just doesn't happen anymore.
I'm wondering that. I'm also wondering if it would be harder to counter jungle just because those timers take longer to respawn. So you might just walk into the enemy jungle and say, "Oh, this camp's not up yet. This camp's not up yet," and kind of waste your time that way.
Well, I mean,
But
if it is anything, like that, just makes it almost there's like more of a prerogative for you to ward it. That way, like you
Right.
can actually see, like get in there during the time that your camps are down, so that you can at least get some vision in there. Be like, okay, I know this is respawning. This is kind of the rate at which they're going to be ending up clearing something, as well as like, oh, okay, if they're in here clearing something now, they're probably going to have to commit X amount of time to it. So let's go do something in between.
I kind of think we're almost going back to the season 1 world where you had to know how every single jungler started their clear, what buff they were going to start at, so that you could use that information to either gank the opposite side or go and counter jungle.
Because you should know where they're going to pop out now. Pretty easier than in the past.
Subsequent seasons put varying levels of emphasis on that. It felt like, I want to say it was like season 2 and 3, they wanted you to be able to just start wherever you felt like it, and then they tried to tune things a little bit more for 4 and 5, but or 4, 5, and 6. But now it seems like you need to know what your opponent is going to do basically at the loading screen.
It's not hard to. It's not.
No, it's not hard, but
I just don't think there's going to be. I think people have already pretty much found the optimal paths, and I have noticed that like Amumu is actually pretty good right now. If you're looking for one of those people, yeah, just because he's a good AOE clear. Lee Sin is still really good on this patch. A lot of Lee Sins that I've noticed have been skipping the jungle item, and they've been going straight to the Tiamat, and then going back for the jungle item after, because it helps them clear more quickly, especially taking Krugs. Or not Krugs. Krugs, but Raptors as well.
That's surprising, given how much Lee Sins tend to love wards.
Tiamat's just cheap. you can pretty much get it on your first back. It's like, what, 1,200 gold, I think?
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah, it's a pretty cheap item to pick up after a clear and a gank or something. Or pick up most of the pieces of it. Sean, are you just looking up the total cost of the item?
Yeah, I'm looking it up right now. It is, it's 1,200.
Yeah.
That's correct.
Is Kha'Zix king of the jungle in your book, or does he belong in a lane?
No, I think Kha'Zix's king of the jungle. Not like king of the jungle, not like he should be played at a time. I think he's really, really good. And
Not like a Rengar.
no, Rengar's just...
He's good enough out of the
Not
jungle.
like your
that-
Rengar.
Oh, yeah, my Rengar is king of the
Yes.
jungle, baby.
The true king.
So the thing, okay, we'll talk about Kha'Zix and why I think Kha'Zix is really good right now, because I believe that you should be evolving R first over anything else, over the Q. I know I've seen a lot of people say that you should keep evolving Q because the damage it does, but R, for those of you who don't know, when you evolve R, when you walk through a bush, you automatically gain stealth and a move speed increase for 2.5 seconds, allowing you to speed through the jungle really quickly.
Triggers through
There's
every
a-
bush. Every bush has its own 10-second cooldown when you pass through it.
There's
So you
a
can just
cheeky
blaze
video.
through your way to a lane.
There's a cheeky video that shows people going from basically one end of the map to the other and being invisible the entire time because of
That's
that
super
mechanic.
annoying.
So, like, don't underestimate just how good that is and how long you can go
Seems pretty good.
straight up unseen.
Right, and then
I
on
have
top of
to-
that, you can press R and go invisible too, so...
More invisibility. I have to wonder if the Q evolve is even worth it anymore since I took the damage away. And now it's a 60% cooldown reduction if you kill an enemy with Q. Something like that. Or no, it's when they're isolated and use Q, you get 60% cooldown reduction on it. But it already has a 3-second cooldown. I haven't played enough Kha'Zix to let you know if taking it down from 3 seconds to 1 is worth it. But I mean, E is obviously you want R, obviously you want E, so it comes down to W and Q.
Yeah, and I think it might end up being Q because the slow has been removed from W, and so now it's just extra damage for isolated targets with W. But you'll probably end up doing Q last just because you can Q in the air now. You can do that again while you're...
That's such a good change for him.
Right.
That and, like, just getting increased range on basic attacks and taste their fear, like, surprisingly useful too.
And you always want to do E second, right? Like, you always need that reset and be able to war everywhere.
Yep. I agree.
But yeah, I think Void Assault is the way to go. He clears the jungle because of isolation. He clears the jungle really easily, and he doesn't have a problem with the AoE camps thanks to Void Spikes. Like you're still leveling QW, right? And so you just when you walk up to like the raptors, for example, you will only pretty much attack the big raptor the entire time and just use W to kill the little ones, and 2 Ws kills the little ones. 2 Ws and a couple auto attacks. Well, you pretty much clear the camp real quickly.
That's one of the big things I've noticed about the Raptor camps. Like it rewards the people who are attentive about repositioning their champions so that abilities like Void Spike or Vise E, end up hitting just all of the little raptors, and you clear them out without even... I mean, you're working at it, but you clear them out without really taking any damage at all from them, and so you're not wasting a lot of time on that camp.
Right. Yeah, the time sink is the trolley krugs, because those things are fucking troll as shit. And
explain this experience difference that you were talking about earlier today.
Yeah, so
I get it.
There's an experience difference with the way the Krugs, and it's only based on if you level up while you're doing the Krugs. It's not based on if you're doing the Krugs just normally. So if you're level 1 and you do the Krugs, and you kill the smaller Krug and all of his little minions that pop out of him first, and then kill the big Krug, and then clear the camp, right? You get the most experience at level 1 into 2 for that. You actually end 2 at 47% in. But if you kill the big Krug first, he pops up, and then you just start killing all the other Krugs, you only gain 27% experience in level 2. And it's based on you leveling up and the Krugs having not leveled. I think it's the Krugs not having leveled up and followed along with you, or the levels of the Krugs that as you level up. I can't remember which it is.
So the big one gives you more experience when you've leveled up, rather than leveling up first, then killing the small one.
Right.
Yeah, Stonewall wonders if there is like a specific set of really fast jungle clearers who will actually like think about starting Krugs, as crazy as that sounds, due to the 15-second delay, just because they're going to finish their clear at more or less the same time and end up at a higher or like with more experience as a result. You lose out on a leash, so you're not as safe, and you're definitely fucking around for 15 seconds, but you know, we can't rule anything out to do that weird experience thing right now. I don't think it's good. I don't think most people are going to do it, but it's the type of thing you can see like the really high MMR or pro players doing, just because it's that little advantage that'll separate them.
If they do, and that becomes optimal, then you can rest assured that's going to trickle down everyone else.
For sure.
Yeah.
It's just
But
I think take
Riot
somebody
would-
up there to figure it out.
I think Riot would change the way the experience gains happen then, if that's the case.
With the video I watched, it took Lee Sin 40 seconds to clear the Krugs. Like, you're spending 40 seconds on one camp, right? And he had to chug at least 2 potions. He didn't start refillable. He started 3 reds, and it took him 2 potions and the entirety of 40 seconds to clear the Krug camp out at level 1 going into 2. And
Right, but like
he didn't
Shyvana is going to do it a whole lot faster.
I don't think so, because Shyvana's AoE, you'll have to time the AoE of her W just perfectly, right? Like,
I mean, but if you're doing this, you're going in with an advanced understanding of what you need to do to accomplish that specific goal.
yeah, I get it. I like the idea that Stonewall has, that champions could potentially use that and gain a higher experience, but that one is going to need a lot of experimenting.
I do wonder, from a top lane perspective, that's going to scare a lot of people off from roaming into the enemy jungler once you pushed up and taking a creep camp. But I've also briefly considered Shyvana making a comeback in the top lane, just because if counter jungling is that much more important and she's able to take Krugs where other champions can't,
Then
she'd
she's
have
gonna
a large advantage
have-
that way.
I
Yeah,
don't
most
think
definitely.
laners are ever going to try to counter jungle Krugs. Because it's still, there's a time sink by virtue of the respawn on the Krugs themselves and everything. They're always just like they go through this animation, and you cannot damage them during that time, and that's where the actual
Speaking of
time
which-
sink comes into play.
And when that's happening, you can sneak in an auto attack on the one that's not being blown up into pieces. So make sure you do that, junglers.
Yeah,
When you kill the small one and it's breaking up into 2 pieces, just smack the big
Second
one in
of the small
between
one.
that animation time.
Oh, that's a good
Yeah.
idea. There's
but you.
Go ahead.
Oh, but you still run into a situation by the end where you're just stuck waiting for them to respawn, so then you can clear however
There's
you
a
need
big
to.
risk
But-
there. I definitely don't think most top laners are going to take advantage of that, because they can't, and it would be a waste of time for them.
Mhm.
I just wondered about Shyvana.
Now
It's something I might want to try.
I can see more top laners going in and trying to counter jungle the buff on their side of the map. Like
Sure.
if you're blue side going and trying to steal red buff, and if you're red side trying to go and steal the enemy blue buff. It's high risk. What? Medium reward, high reward, depends on how much your opponent team values that specific buff. But
Depends on
Have
what
you
do with the
seen
buff.
when you were watching streams today how many like from your buff straight to enemy buff?
No one was doing it today. Everybody
Okay.
was just testing the jungle on their own. I think you'll probably see more of that in the next couple days as people. Feel
Yeah, I
more
mean
comfortable.
and it might become something too where like that just becomes the normal thing to just end up trading buffs like that. I mean, probably not at lower levels for sure, but I could see it kind of going that way as well, just because it's like, well, whatever. Now I kind of know something that's going on in their jungle, and if they don't do it to me, I still have an advantage.
So everybody's taking each other's like side of the jungle.
Yeah,
Start
I
your
mean,
blue,
yeah,
go to
you
red
could.
and take his red side, and then they're doing your blue side.
What season was that? Was that season 2?
That's a
Season
that
happened
while
a lot.
ago.
4 or 5, that was happening a lot.
Ugh.
That's great. I love
Speaking
it.
of can't keeping things straight,
Well, there's
it's all in the history.
something
Big
here.
hodgepodge of stuff.
Mitch left a note on my. So, Ivern, right, gets indirectly nerfed because of the Krugs, because Krugs only give him 80 gold and 120 experience if he does them at all. Like, there is no breaking up, there is nothing. That's all he gets out of the Krugs. And the standard, for those out there who want to know, it's 160 gold for the entire camp. And Mitch disagrees with me. He's obviously not here, but he left a note. He says it doesn't make him any different from before. Everyone else just takes longer, gets more for it, and that's actually not true. Because if a level 1 to 2 Lee Sin takes 40 seconds, that's how long Ivern takes for the Grove to mature, is 40 seconds. right? And you're using smite on your the Grove matures.
How does it
Riot
calculate
has
that?
said this is intended.
Right, but it's probably intended because you can take it with smite, but it's putting him at
Or
disadvantage.
because, the rest of his clear is otherwise so fast because it's not like he's clearing just the one camp.
No, but he's using his smite on the blue or red to start, right? Just to get that really fast, and then he's walking over and he's starting his channel on the raptors, or he started his channel on the wolves, and then he's walking to the enemy jungle and stealing their red or blue with smite up. Like, you're not going to be walking over to Krugs unless you have smite available now because of the experience lost and the fact that it really doesn't take. It takes him just as long to kill that camp, and he gets less for it. Unless
How
you
does
have
it calculate
smite.
the time it takes for his growth to mature on Krugs?
It's the Grove matures over 40 at level 1 down to 6 seconds level 18. So it goes 40, 38, 36, 34, etc., all the way down to 6.
See, I mean, he's such a complicated case that trying to get into a conversation about him is, I don't want to say a bad use of our time, but it's sort of hard. Like, it's really difficult to do. It's not like any of us have spent any real time playing that champion.
And nobody else is either with his abysmal 30% win rate.
I mean,
Or Ivern.
the committed, I guess, are doing really well with him, but
I guess if you guys want to talk a little bit about the control wards for a second, because I do want to get back in here and talk more about the jungle, but I have to run upstairs and get my dog in.
Control wards are something else that I think. I mean, this is the big vision change, right? For this preseason, because they seem to have one for every preseason. This is the another part that I think might change the meta. I just have no idea how, with the removal of pink wards and adding control wards in their place.
I don't feel like this changes a whole lot. You should still be buying them and placing them aggressively. The only thing it really does is it's giving you vision control of an area, not just vision, like vision control. Mm-hmm. And that's really useful and powerful, but you're still going to play around it in very similar ways. It's a little bit harder to do because if there is a control ward in a brush and then you toss your ward in there, you're not going to get vision of that area.
Right.
You can't.
But you're going to know why you don't have vision of that area.
You have to be nearby in order to make use of it. It kind of feels like, right? Because you're setting that up to deny vision for an objective like Baron. Or could you use this to gank a lane if you're a jungler and you're going to bot lane and you want to set that down? I mean, they're probably going to see you for a half a second before you place the ward, correct? Because you have to be close enough.
But Sweeper and the Oracle's upgrade, they were already doing that. Oracle's upgrade was definitely doing that. I think Sweeper was also disabling wards, but maybe it was just revealing them.
Disabling wards.
So they were already doing that. So in theory, you could have just disabled and then run into the lane instead of disabling and killing and then running into the lane. And people would have to be really, really quick and mindful of that momentary loss of vision. But that's why I don't know that this is really changing that much, because it was already something you could do.
But the removal of pink wards is going to provide less vision overall, though. I mean, you're not going to see a pink ward in the tri-bush and top lane or bot lane anymore. You don't have that option. So you kind of have to rely on the green wards.
Control wards still give vision.
They're functioning arguably the same way. It's just now they add like a different slew of perks for it.
They just don't give you visibility of camouflaged or invisible champions like pink wards used to.
That's not.
They still give you vision of that area.
That's what I didn't realize.
Evelyn is actually completely.
It knocks her out.
It knocks her out if she runs through a control ward.
I think it knocks out of camouflage, right?
Oh, it does camouflage.
So Rengar and
you can't throw it in the middle of a Kali shroud or right on the ground when Talon or Vayne.
Anybody who's stealthed, you can't see.
Yeah, stealth invisible.
Okay.
Right.
Yeah,
stealth is their generic term for both.
Doesn't this ward show up to the enemy team if it's actively disabling a ward?
That I don't know.
Can't they see it?
I would assume
I
no,
think so.
because they wouldn't have vision of that area. See, so Sean thinks they would, and I think they would.
No. I mean, I think that would like show where it was. It wouldn't
Control
necessarily
wards
show...
are visible to the enemy team while they're actively disabling a ward.
Yeah, so like
Okay.
what it would just be, it's not like the ward's going to just magically
Then-
start giving vision to the enemy team. What it would just do is be like, hey, you'd be able to see the outline of it in whatever
So
bush it was in.
if they're visible, are they targetable?
I would
Like if
have to
it's in
assume
brush,
so.
then it doesn't.
Which-
Then the only thing it changes is that you won't be able to see the opponent champions that are in that brush trying to fight you off, which is a big change. But
I mean, that makes it so you can bait people into that brush too, thinking that there's not going to be anybody there, and then next thing you know, boom.
yeah,
That's kind of cool.
that's fun, but it doesn't
Mind
change the
games.
use case. I don't know. I think
Damn.
I think you're using them like they were ping wards.
Yeah, everyone's buying them now. Every time I see anybody go back, they're buying a control ward. And
They're cheap. That's nice.
Well, and I mean,
Saves me a
I'm
ton of
not.
money. I'm buying like fucking 8 of those a game, so there's 400 gold or something back in my pocket.
I mean, it also makes sense considering
200.
a bunch of the champions that are being played right now because of changes to like control words are going to be super helpful against a lot of them.
There we go, ward.
Weird.
Whatever. If this change suddenly gets everybody buying them, then I'm all for it because people were really really shitty about buying them, and people were shitty. Like they had that shitty attitude of, oh, I bought one and threw it down, and it's still
did my
there, so
job.
I'm not going to buy another one. And it's like,
Yeah.
well, you threw it down, and now it's in a garbage spot.
So,
Move it. So if they're so cheap now that people are just buying them and replacing them, then every support player should rejoice, and your life is improved by virtue of this.
they're not really any different than vision wards. I mean, people weren't buying.
They
vision
aren't
wards
pink,
before.
which I've got a problem with.
Right. I was gonna ask, should we start calling these red wards now?
I guess. I don't like it, but that's what they are.
Yeah, until the LCS decides to come up with a different name for it, and then we have to switch because everyone will get confused otherwise.
It's got to be a
Uh-huh.
red ward. That's the only thing that makes sense. I do want to jump back into the jungle and talk about a few other things really quickly. And that's something that might be really minor and that only certain people might notice is that they changed where the red and blue buff spawn. Like, they don't spawn right exactly in the center of the grove anymore. They spawn like a little bit off center now. So, like, if you're used to being in a certain area and dropping a Lee Sin Q of the wall, you might not hit your blue buff anymore. And it's probably so minor that it doesn't matter, but it's just something interesting to note. So there's that.
Lee Sin's will
Awesome.
quickly adjust to that.
Right. And yeah, Dom, I got that. That's the only thing. Okay, so the Riot did an AMA today, the preseason, and I trolled the AMA for a couple hours, and that was the only piece of information that I got out of the entire AMA. And even that
Wow.
right there, it already
What a
said
terrible
in the
use of
patch
your
notes.
time.
Yeah, and that already says in the patch notes exactly that, right? Like it says it shows camouflage. Actually, a lot of people are bitching. I love Reddit forums because everyone just knee jerk goes crazy nutty about everything, and they're all knee jerking over Teemo right now. They're like, "You just completely made Teemo."
I
useless."
saw
Whatever,
somebody
10 man,
posted
get rid
it.
of
It's
that
like
fucker.
as a Teemo
Cares.
main, this is detrimental to
Oh,
what
the
I like to
competitive
do.
Teemo mains are so sad.
Yeah.
All 4 of them.
I can't run them through my
Teemo.
minefield anymore, which is bullshit because you would have to have like a ward and to be like step warding and not be caught in a minefield as you're walking through it.
And again, sweepers and oracles were disabling
doing
them
that for-
anyway. It's not like this mechanic wasn't already in the game.
Well, there's that, and so far the people are liking the plants. I know that I had voiced my concern with them. I think the only concern that people have is that plants are spawning too quickly right now, and it feels like you're a gardener rather than a carnivore.
A jungler.
Yeah.
What? Who said that?
Oh, I don't know.
One of the pros from the wildcard teams.
Oh, did he?
Yeah, he said exactly that. He's like, I'm so used to being a carnivore, now all of a sudden I'm a gardener.
Right. Or I'm a jungler now.
Your brand new and improved vegan jungle.
Yeah. So far everyone's saying that they like them. Apparently, the one thing that I heard Sven Skaren saying that made sense to me is that he likes the blue one because it allows him to be efficient in the jungle because he can point blue at top lane. Now he doesn't have to go up top and check top lane for his laner anymore or even hold top lane. He can just do the ward, find the jungler, and keep moving along his path, right? So it allows him to be more efficient in the jungle with that blue plant being up.
Are people using the blast cones to maneuver more quickly through the jungle?
Yes.
That's kind of what it seems like they're there for.
Yeah,
Like, I'm going to smack this thing when walking by it.
I see a lot of top laners use it, actually, to get from one place to the other.
I'd be curious to see how much it actually impacts your overall movement just through the jungle, but there are a few nice spots where, like, I was going to use Vi's Q to sneak over a wall, and then there was a blast one there. I'm like, oh, well, I can just use this to hop over.
Yeah.
That's sweet. My ability's off cooldown. Here we go.
It's a really nice interface that they've given so you can actually see where you're going to land. And yeah, I think, like, obviously the best use of this is going over the wall, whereas if you just want to use it to boost yourself along the same path, if you don't do it perfectly, it feels like you could just walk to your destination at the exact same speed. I'm probably just bad at using blast cones, but
I mean, you have to be mindful of it because it's really easy to think, oh, here's a blast cone, time to just walk up and hit it. I'm going to go where I want to, and that's actually not.
And then
you're
sometimes you
gonna
might just go
position
straight
yourself.
up back down, like, fuck.
But they do make it very clear where you're going to land.
Yeah, that's pretty nice.
Once you get close enough.
It was cool. I did see the video. Rush had posted a video, or someone posted a video, Rush's stream, and a Rek'Sai blast coned over blue, smited it, and just walked away. It was great. He's like in the air, this little Rek'Sai goes, "Arr!" So that was funny. Which is, I expect a lot of things like that to happen. People using it to escape or get into pits and stuff. I mean, so far what I've seen is that they're not terrible. I go back on what I said. They're not awful. I thought they would bring something.
They're not terrible yet.
No, not yet.
I mean, they're also kind of new, and we haven't had time to get tired of them yet as well.
Hopefully
So, like, that's a big piece of it, right?
Right. Oh, by the way, the
Hopefully
blue
something-
plant does
oh.
reveal camouflage.
Oh, interesting.
That's nice. Yeah, it's like the old. There's a twisted tree line item that does something similar to what it does.
The little like dust blow in the air type of thing.
Yeah.
So the other thing that I noticed today is that the lethality kind of sucks. It's nowhere near as good as it was previously. Like if you're used to beasting on people with armor penetration.
What a surprise!
Right. And that just makes sense.
That was pretty obvious.
From a number standpoint, it makes sense. But like lethality and Ghostblade are not that good anymore. Like they're still good. You should still pick them up, but you need to pick them up when you need it, rather than just picking it up to make yourself more powerful.
Does that make the cunning mastery less attractive? Are you still going to be picking up that?
Cunning is literally the same as it like functions literally the same as it used to.
Well, I'm talking about that lethality mastery in the second to last tier, whereas you get lethality and magic now.
I guess it's not exactly the same because now the armor pen you get per level is based on your opponent's level, but otherwise it's still you're getting the flat amount that you always got, and it's scaling at the same rate per level as it always used to. It's just now opponent's level.
Like everything else, it's buff me now or buff me later with the masteries, because am I going to go over 40% CDR, then that other mastery is good. Am I never going to go over 40% CDR, then I should probably just pick up some extra armor penetration. I mean, that's kind of...
No, it also gives you...
If you're going to go over 40%, if you're going to go over 40% CDR, that doesn't change anything. It gives you 5 base.
Yeah.
Right, because it makes you go 45, though, total.
Yeah. So if you...
I know, but
so
I mean,
if you just want 5% CDR.
Most people that are picking that up, the majority of people that would pick that up are going to hit 40% CDR, right? Like that's why they're picking it up. Well, the majority of people who pick it up don't necessarily. I mean, I guess there's an argument there for an extra 5% CDR early in the game over the armor penetration, but it's probably apples to oranges.
And my second lethality question was Kazakh's jungle rushing Duskblade.
The people I saw play it, no, but I think they're just idiots.
Okay. Were they still getting their jungle item first?
Yeah, everybody was going warrior.
Okay.
Like warrior, skirmisher, saber, and then they were going into something else. Like, what's the other one? Night Blade or some bullshit? What the hell's the one that comes out of Poachers? The Poachers thing.
Eve of Night or something?
Yeah. I saw a lot of that being picked up, but I think a lot of them kind of
That's really good.
I saw a lot of them picking that up and then going into Duskblade, but I mean, numbers may say differently that Duskblade is the better. I don't know yet. I haven't really looked at it.
That new item, it felt really good. It caught a lot of people. Yeah, Edge and I, thank you. It caught people off I don't want to say it caught people off guard because I don't know what they were thinking and everything, but they definitely, they looked at me and saw they knew I didn't have a spell shield or anything, and then all of a sudden I would like block a Morgana Q because I had that item and I was trying to plan accordingly for that. It felt like it was up every time I wanted to, with the understanding that if you use it, that's it. It's a one and done in that scenario. But I never felt like it was. I would use it and then it would be on cooldown when the next round of fights started.
Okay.
So 45 seconds is. People might argue that it's too short once it becomes kind of this ubiquitous purchase, but at the moment right now, it feels like it's always there when you want to fall back on it. Or fall into it, I guess, because you got to be proactive
45
with that one.
seconds that's like old Ghostblade. Ghostblade was 45
Banshee's
seconds.
Veil.
Right. It's being able to activate it on your own is better. I mean, Banshee's Veil is great and all, but being able to activate it on demand is the best.
Right. I mean, the 1.5 second channel is not to be trifled, but
At
it's
least you
easy
can
to
move
hide
with
into.
it. Yeah. It feels smooth to use. You just hit that, and then you get in position to jump in. And then you've got a shield that lasts for 10 seconds, so if you're an assassin jumping in on an AD carry, or if their support is nearby, that support is going to have to wait or burn the shield somehow before applying CC.
Well, and the shield is not quite as visible as like Banshee's Veil or Spell Shield. So people are going to have to like do some work and really anticipate it to be mindful of that and everything. But it's going to be really easy for people to miss for a while.
Okay.
Just because to me, it was not as like using it. I was like, oh, okay, there it is. Yeah, I didn't notice this in any of the fights. I really was like making a point to kind of stand back and use it one time just to see what it felt like, and it did seem smaller and less. I don't know. It was quieter, I guess is how I'd describe it.
So I did get to play with the Courage of the Colossus on Vi, and it's super noticeable. Like that shield is that shield is gigantic.
Is it huge?
Yeah.
That's interesting.
And that applies when you hit Q too, right? Because that's normal knockup.
Yep. Q and R
Nice.
both apply it. I mean, it's a 30-second cooldown, but the shield is big enough that after you've engaged, the enemy team can't just burst you right out right away. And I think that is going to be. I did see a tweet that said they're really keeping their eye on that mastery because it could probably get out of hand too quickly, and the cooldown might be increased, or the time to activation might be increased, or how long it lasts might be decreased. Like they got a bunch of levers and whatnot they can pull and push. It's just that I think that mastery might push some people over the edge as it develops. So I would not be surprised if we see in like 5 or 6 patches a change to that.
What types of or what champions like specifically do you think it's gonna push over the edge?
Any tank champion that just.
Okay.
I mean, Maokai.
Yeah. Everyone and their mothers is slow now, so lots of people can take
slows
advantage
don't
of it.
count.
Oh, it's just hard to CC, right?
It's hard to CC.
Control.
Yes, so that doesn't
Stun,
affect
root,
that.
suppression, taunt, charm, fear, terrify, knock up, and knock back.
So Olaf,
Shen though,
no benefit.
he gonna love that.
Yep, Shen, if he lands his E, gets a bigger one. The Scion, if he ultimates in and has his W already up, he gets an even larger shield on top of the W shield if he hits people. I mean, Q procs it too. There's a lot of really good uses for it, but I think you need to be able to just kind of like on demand be able to use Courage of the Colossus. You can't just hold it and hope that it procs off of something. You know what I mean? Like Scion using Q, for example. Like you don't always get people knocked up in that, and your ultimate isn't on demand stuns. But it's
my big worry is that there are a handful of champions where it's going to look really good for them, and in fact, it's not that good just because the window for your opponents to respond is I don't know, it's not fast enough, basically. Like I'm kind of thinking Malphite. Everybody's screaming like it's really good on him and everything, and it probably is. But it's sort of if he knocks up, 3 champions with it and everything, well, his shield is burning while they can't do anything about it to begin with. So...
And that's the only drawback of that is that...
Now, you could also look at that, though, as like, hey, you got the 3-man knock-up, so anybody hitting you in that in-between is still doing no damage to you. So, like, if there's 5 people on a team, if 2 of them are hitting you, you're still blocking all that damage anyway. So, like, it's not like it's totally useless, but, I mean...
But if you didn't hit the tank top laner and the Nami support, it's not like you're taking a lot of damage anyway.
Right.
Well, other than that, I haven't had a chance. I think we're gonna swing back around to these as we get some time to play with them. Chira and I are gonna try to play on Sunday if he's available, and we're gonna be streaming it. So it'll probably be early morning, but we'll post it on YouTube after the fact too, because I know a lot of you out there are listening because you don't have a lot of time to play, and you expect
I should
us
be
to
around if you want me to
jump in.
Fine, Dom. Way to invite yourself. No, I'm kidding.
Yeah, there we go.
So okay,
Oh,
somebody
I'll be
explain
that
to
guy.
me, because I'm not the smartest guy in the world. When you log in, it tells you might have to do placements. So do I have to do placements before the season happens and then do another set of placements, or is the placements I'm doing for the season?
I think that was just for people who hadn't been playing ranked.
Okay, so that's what that's for. Because I wondered that because the streamers that I watched were all on Smurfs. Like I know Sven Skaren said he was on a Gold 1 Smurf because it's his US account, and it had decayed over the entirety of the season because he doesn't live in Denmark, obviously. Mm-hmm. And he had to do his placement matches, and I saw Kwas was doing placement matches too, so I wasn't sure. I kind of figured that I wouldn't have to, but I haven't confirmed. Riot's so weird with the way the ranked works, but hey, we have.
I've given up trying to figure that shit out.
But
we have placements. I have no idea.
We have Flex and Solo Queue now, and don't they have their own ELOs and MMR and shit now? With
Sure do.
Too?
Yeah, separate. Yep. And then also a nice perk for Twisted Treeline players is you can now just queue up by yourself.
Oh, for 3v3 ranked solo queue?
Yeah, like the only way you could play Twisted Treeline ranked for for previous seasons after the rework was if you queued up with the team, and that really frustrated people because schedules are hard to line up. So you end up with like a team of 7 people who are just rotating in and out.
Sure. And
then you get to the highest echelon and everybody's just win trading. But now you can win trade by yourself.
And that's the way we like to do it. So we have a few listener questions that we haven't gotten to, and I think they are small enough that we can quickly roll through them and give people answers to them. And I apologize if you've been sending listener questions in to us and we don't get to them. It's been a very, very hectic preseason, and we haven't had a lot of time to swing back and do kind of like the listener episodes recently. We'll start with Asher's question first. He wrote in and asked us, I seem to suck against any Riven player that knows how to play Riven, so I have been banning her recently. Is it worth it? I really want to learn how to play against her.
I'm pointing at you, Punch. Punch, I'm pointing at you.
Oh man, Riven's so much fun to play against. So the short answer is it's totally worth banning the champion if you're struggling against that champion and it's a popular pick. So if you're seeing a lot of Rivens and you're getting destroyed by Rivens, go ahead and ban Riven.
And there are 5 bans per side now, so you are perfectly
ban
free
away,
to,
sir.
Ban whoever you don't.
It's
feel
to a point you're
with.
just like, I'm gonna ban Soraka because fuck that bitch.
Wait,
being said,
I thought the bans didn't go through the 5 for each side.
I thought they did. That's what everybody on Reddit has been talking about that I've seen.
Bans. Control F did not find bans in the patch notes.
Yeah, I was gonna say I don't think
maybe they're still coming. I haven't heard
when
that
those go through.
That weren't going to do that.
When those go through, then everything I've heard or everything I've been reading has been people like freaking out about that.
Oh, people freaking out.
So, anyways,
that's true.
I mean, at this point, with where we're at right now, if you want to learn how to play against Riven, don't ban her and just
now's
deal
a good
with
time.
it.
Yeah,
this is the time if there was a time to do it. So, you know what? Fuck banning Riven. Let's start banning Fiora, or I always ban Soraka too, Dom, so I'm in that same boat. Ban whoever you feel like. Leave Riven on the table if you see Riven, great. If not, whatever.
Yeah, and if rank starts back up again and you're still struggling, then go ahead and ban her. But
like Jared said,
the only way you're going to learn to play against her is
by playing her against
her.
Yeah.
In Plat Plus, she was the most picked top laner. I'm gonna quick run over to LOL King and see what happens. I'm pretty on board with banning like highly picked champions and everything because there's a decent chance either you're gonna run into somebody who really knows what they're doing, or they're gonna get picked just because they seem like they're this flavor of the month champ, and so your teammate will have no idea what they're doing with that champion. So it's sort of like just pulling somebody in that case out of the rotation to me is always a pretty good move, or is a justifiable move at least. I don't know if it's good, but it's justifiable.
As far as people to play against Riven, Hurtis Leah has recently talked about playing Olaf into her and maxing E first. And I got to try that for one game, and it seemed pretty damn effective.
It's effective. The free way to get through that shield really, really easily early, and if like you shouldn't necessarily be using on the shield. If you can get her to blow her shield and then land the E after the shield ends, you gotta you completely negated the trade. It's dead even. Or
even win it, depending on how many abilities you can block.
Right.
Or dodge.
So, I mean that's one way to do it.
And once you start winning those trades with Olaf E, that's when you can actually just start preventing her from getting close to the creep wave, because you just stand between her and the creeps, and she can't really do anything about it.
Yeah.
You've already established the point where you're going to win every trade with E, so the only time you're going to be pushing that wave is to reset it so that it goes back towards your side and you can block her from getting close to it.
And the only one way you could fuck that up is just by not respecting her when she gets ult, because I feel like that in itself is probably the number one reason why people end up losing lane to Riven, is just like they forget that when that bitch hits level 6 and she goes all in on you, if you go even with her when that happens, she's going to execute you with her ultimate. And you're going to sit there like, well, I forgot she can do that, even though that is something that hasn't changed at all in the entirety of that champion being around. So just an equal fight against a Riven when you and her are both 6 really realistically isn't all that equal.
3 big things to watch out for Riven is level 6, level 2, and whether or not she has Ignite. Because a lot of them take Ignite, so pay attention to that.
I just slap exhaust on her the moment she starts running in at the she presses R and then it's like, that's okay, good. here's exhaust.
Well, that brings up a point. If you are losing lane to Riven, don't get disheartened, because there have been plenty of games where Riven has dominated the lane, and then once
team fights roll through.
Once team fights start, it's an entirely different ball game for Riven, because she doesn't have to outplay one person; she has to outplay 5. Yeah, a lot of Rivens can't do that. So that's when they actually start losing the game. They can't close out games. A lot of them can't, even if they have a successful laning phase.
It's not just that. It's hard to outplay multiple CCs rather than just one. Yep. So
just keep safe, keep farming, don't lose heart.
To circle back, the 10-ban system has not been implemented, by the way. They are still talking about doing it.
Oh, they're talking about it.
Right.
They can talk all they want. It's coming.
I was almost positive, but yeah, I am positive now. There's only 6 bans in the game, so you can
banner. Fuck it. People are gonna ban dumber shit. So
I was banning Akali. Not anymore, because Akali's trash now.
Is she?
Yeah, she's pretty bad.
Why were you banning her before?
I was banning her in silver.
But he only bans her in silver.
Oh, okay.
He's worried about
those silver colors.
Which is, I think it's funny that
it's the
Adam,
Smurfs.
All right, hold. Adam is so worried about Akali Smurfs in silver, and yet he's a diamond player playing in silver. Like, he is the Smurf, so it's a Smurf in fear of an Akali Smurf. I don't fucking understand this, Adam. You're a diamond player. Why the fuck do you care?
Smurfception.
Because it's not that I can't hold my own against the Akali. It's that other silver player can't hold their own. No, you just
do better. This is what you do. As soon as you see that Akali,
just do better.
You do better. And then the second thing you do against Akali is you say, hey, it's probably a Smurf. Let me just go shit on this Smurf. Because if they're not a Smurf, you're going to crush them because they're playing Akali. If they are a Smurf, well, hopefully you just don't die, because if you do, you're bad.
I mean, Sean, that's what I tell you every time we play together, and somehow
I don't know what you're talking about.
You only ended at Plat 2 last season, so.
Technically, Plat 3, because I lost a lot of games with Dom at the end of the season.
Yeah, we did not win.
We lost a lot of games.
I needed to win a bunch of games in a row, and you and I actually just lost a bunch.
It's funny, within a week span, I lost my Plat 1 promos after going almost all the way up to Plat 1 promos without like that many losses, and then within like 8 games after that, I think I was Plat 3.
Do you remember,
all right, well,
do you remember the season
end of
before
season,
this
boys.
when that happened to me? I made it all
Yeah.
the way to 99 LP Plat 1, and then I fucking dropped like a goddamn rock to Plat 5. Like, it happens to everybody, Sean.
I wasn't even making a rush for Diamond or anything. So like it was like at the end of the season, Dom was like, "Well, if you're worried about playing ranked with me," I'm like, "I don't give a fuck. Like I'm not like I've been falling forward this entire season, so I'm just having fun in ranked. Let's play."
I've been falling forward.
Yep.
Falling forward.
Dom dragged me kicking and screaming into platinum.
I really
I
did.
fell face forward into that. Thanks,
I really
Dom.
did. You're welcome.
Yeah.
Couldn't drag myself into platinum, but I dragged
Oh.
somebody.
Well, we'll on that note, we will end it there. I hope you all enjoy the preseason over the next week or so, and we will be back on Monday with more preseason discussion. Thank you so much for listening to the Trinity Force podcast and the Trinity Force Network is supporting us, guys. We love you all, every single one of you, no matter who you voted for. We don't
Every
care.
single one of them?
Every single one of them. Kisses, motherfuckers.
Oh, yeah, kisses.
Yeah, I'm hearing ghosts again.
I thought there was a kid crying upstairs. No,
Oh, yes. and kids.
I still can't tell if that's a kid or a police siren. That's pretty bad.
What a fucking great way to end the show. We did it, guys. We
Peace.
did it. Later.
See you guys.